Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki Frazier and Rachel Dean, certified clinical aromatherapists. We are excited to have you here on today's episode where you know that you'll get the best essential oil scoop.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. If you want to learn more about Ayurvedic Indian head massage, check out the courses at www.schoolofessentria.com. Welcome to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki Frazier here with Teresa Trieb. Teresa is a somatic breath therapist from Munich, Germany. She helps others gain access to the subconscious mind, release trapped emotions, and help rewire their brain through the power of transformational breathwork. Teresa is a student of life exploring the connection between breathwork, emotion, somatics, and psychosomatics. Her personal success is that she overcame her own panic attacks, anxiety, and depression through breathwork. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Nikki.
Yeah. And I actually had the amazing opportunity to go through a breathwork session with you just a few days ago. So we will actually talk about that through the podcast as a glimpse of it. It was absolutely amazing. Like the entire thing was amazing, and I experienced, I feel like, everything that you had talked about, and so I can't wait to really dive into this. But
I'm really excited to hear about it. Yeah. That's the nitty-gritty of my work.
Right? I absolutely loved it. Before we dive into it, we always like to ask all of our guests, and I know you do actually work with oils in your practice, so you can answer your oils or you can answer your aroma, but what is your favorite oil or aroma?
That would be Californian white sage.
Oh, interesting. And can you share why, if you're comfortable with it?
I am totally comfortable with it. So when I am doing breath work, I enter this specific state of mind, and it is about, neutralizing your negativity. It is about cleansing your body. So I connect this sense with it, and that's just why it's so dear to my heart. And this is why I also use it in my sessions for going deeper into the process.
Nice. I love that. All right.
It is a little bit of a penetrating scent, so you kind of have to like it. It's not really common, I would say. So that's why, people are like, whoa, what was that?
Nice, nice. Yeah. And it's not one, I mean, it's not an oil that we use all that often either. So that's really interesting. Sure. Nice. So I'd love to know, how did you get into breathwork? I know we talked a little bit about it in your introduction, but what was it that drew you to breathwork?
Yes, of course. So I am a former pro competitive athlete. And for me, it was always three components. It was nutrition, it was exercise, and recovery. And I had the nutrition and the exercise down, but recovery was always very important to me. I was researching the best tips to get a better sleep, or I was, totally into the biohacking tips. So for me, sleeping was important. Recovery in terms of, how will I recover better and after my training sessions. So one day I was just, being on YouTube, and I had this buzzword. I came across this buzzword, breathwork. And it was intriguing, but I had like absolutely no idea what this was about. You hear about breath work, especially now. I mean, by now it's a term that is used more often. So I clicked on YouTube, and it was a session. I think it was like 10 minutes long. It was just, I don't even remember what was it targeted. I think it was for anxiety or something like that. So I was like, all right, let's just do it, just to see what this is all about. And I started it, and it was, I think it was, it was box breathing. So it was box breathing. So you breathe you inhale, for example, 6 seconds, and then you you hold for 6 seconds, and then you exhale for 6 seconds, and then you hold it again, and you repeat the process. And you can do this with 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 seconds, whatever you feel like doing. And it was just calming me down. It was for 10 minutes. And after those 10 minutes, I was like, whoa, okay, that is interesting. So I had this YouTube channel that I was just going through all the sessions. And it was in the beginning mostly targeted to improve my lung capacity. Because, I was an athlete and I wanted to be better in the gym. I wanted to have better sessions and have a better recovery afterwards. So for me, it was just, why are we never paying attention to the breath? The breath is something that we have from the beginning on, right? We come into this world and we breathe. And before we die, we take our last breath. So why are we not ever paying more attention to that component of life? It's always about your food or exercise, movement, or, all those mindfulness practices. But what about the breath? So it was very intriguing to me. So I just, I made the connection to my sport, and I researched all of it. Like, I was reading about it. I was Googling. I just wanted to know more about this. And so in the beginning, I had the component of the performance enhancement breathwork, which is the first type of breathwork. And then we have meditative breathwork, or mindfulness breathwork. It's another term for it, which we use for situational breathwork. For example, the box breathing, to target specific situations where you want to calm your nerves, or you want to conquer your anxiety in the moment. Or also, yogis use this type of breathing in their sessions.
I was just going to say
And
that,
then,
I think that's the most common one that people are aware of, because of
absolutely.
yoga. And even I was trained as a child and youth care worker, addiction counselor, and we use a lot of those techniques with clients and that type of stuff. When I was working in the corporate world, that was a lot of the breathing techniques that we used. So I think most people can resonate with that.
Absolutely. When they hear the term breath work, it is automatically targeted towards this type of breath work, which is, also why when I have to explain my work, because technically that's not really what I'm doing.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. So yeah, it's that was, but I went through that process as well. I went through the performance enhancing breath work, and then I went to the mindfulness breath work. And then I remember this so clearly, like it was yesterday. I once again, at my specific YouTube channel, that go-to YouTube channel at that time, and there was this session, and in breath work, especially in the mindful breath work, we go into rounds. So you breathe in a certain technique for, I would say, like 2-3 minutes, and then you go into a breath hold. And then you do the same thing over and over. And sometimes you change the speed to slower, or sometimes you do it faster. But you do this in rounds. And this specific session was actually a really long session, which I, at that point, haven't really done, but it intrigued me. I started with 10 minutes, and then I did 15, and then I did 5 minutes, and then I did 20. So it was mostly in the range of 5 to 30 minutes, but 30 was really long at that time. And I was really dedicated. Once I discovered this, I was into it like every single day. Like, I woke up, I started it. It was great. It was just something that, I haven't really experienced. It was just mind blowing to me, the effect right after it, or during.
Absolutely.
So in this session, it was 9 rounds in total, which is very long. And I'm in the 7th round, and something happened inside of me. I was just somewhere else. I was somewhere else. Was I having an out of body experience? I have no idea. But that's something that I can kind of related to right now, because I feel like that could have been it, you know? Was I just feeling something that I haven't felt before? Yes. So one thing about this session was it was a different breathing technique. At that point, they called it DMT breathing.
Okay.
I mean, I had no idea what it was. It was just another breathing exercise I did. And now looking back, I know exactly what it was, because it was conscious connecting breathing, which is the technique I am using, which is the technique you use in transformational breathwork.
Nice.
And this is the last and my passion, my focus, which is transformational breathwork, where you use a specific type of breath, which is through the mouth, and that is also the difference to all the other um, breathwork types that are usually done through the nose. This is done through the mouth, and this is what does the trick. You activate your cells and you activate your brain by going into a hyperventilation. With the mindfulness breath work, for example, we want our nerves to come down. We want our nervous system to calm down. And with this technique, we are upregulating it. So we're doing the exact opposite, but this is what does the trick. And it comes, if I could talk about the chemical reaction in the body about it, but just to make it really short and quick, it's basically a change in pH in our body that comes through the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen.
So what would upright, because like you said, typically we want to calm the nervous system. That is what a lot of the times our nervous system becomes out of balance. A lot of people actually live in that fight, flight, freeze zone
Exactly.
every day with just normal things happening. You turn on the news and it's just so negative and traumatizing and all kinds of things. The stress of just every day. A lot of people are in, like, their nervous system is not in a regulated state naturally. So
Exactly.
a lot of the times we do, you hear all the time of, take calm breaths, breathe through your nose, do the box breathing, or there's many different other kinds of calm breaths as well. So here though, you're saying that the transformational breathing, we're upregulating our nervous system. So
Yeah.
why, and I know you said like it changes the pH, that type of stuff, but what is the benefit of upregulating it compared to, because typically we always want to calm it.
Yeah, it's because you're doing this for a specific time and you target yourself within. So it's just like, when you have an allergy, for example, there is this type of method where you um immerse yourself in the allergy that you are allergic to. For
Yep.
example, pollen. There is this method where you just walk into a field of sunflowers, and it's supposed to shock you. So
Yeah.
this is basically the same thing. You're shocking your nervous system, but you're also, and here comes the trick, you're also combining it with the breathing technique, mindful breathing technique in the beginning and after the session. So
Okay.
like you had in your session, there's a 5 to 10 period where you breathe through the nose to just calm down and ground yourself.
Yeah.
And there are scientific articles that prove already that just 5 minutes of breathing can downregulate you. So this is what we do here too. So we do this in the very beginning, and then we have the conscious connecting breathing technique, which depends between 45 minutes and I would say 75 minutes in total. But when you come, you can go even further. If you look at holotropic breath work, you do this for 3 hours.
Oh,
Like
wow.
this is a workout.
I could
I
not even
mean,
imagine doing that for 3 hours.
yeah, it
Like,
is a very,
that's
very intense process. It's a very intense process. But after the session, we also did the mindfulness breath work. We were calming down our nervous system, but it's just the shock in between that does the trick.
okay. And so who would this be good for? So like, why would someone want to do this breath work?
Yeah, so it comes down to the overall term of stress. And stress
Okay.
can be rooted in different things.
Yeah.
It could be rooted in depression. It could be rooted in um, anxiety, but it also can be relationship struggles, for example, autoimmune diseases. It all comes down to an emotion that is stuck in your body.
Mhm.
So this is why I have this approach of somatic or psychosomatics, because the body is what holds all the emotions. You have all the experiences, your memories that you are taking in on a conscious level, but then it comes down to the body, and this is the subconscious work I do with the transformational breath work. So I do have clients that are, dealing with patterns of self-sabotage, but also chronic pain. I just had
Mhm.
a client, she has been having neck pain for 4 months and she could not release it. She went to the massage, she went to yoga, she went to Pilates. She said like nothing helped. Nothing helped. So, and then I also have someone that just lost their mom through a tragic incident. So she's experiencing a lot of grief,
Mhm.
so fear is something I conquer in my sessions as well. I actually have a session that is really targeted into fear, because fear is something that is rooted in our subconsciousness as well. Why do we experience this fear? Why are we afraid of something? Usually that is because of a sense that we have not experienced or felt in a long time. Fear of moving to another place. What am I gonna experience there? Are the new coworkers nice to me? That kind
Mm.
of stuff. So
Even
the
I was gonna say, it makes me even think of sometimes we have, the chronic pain that you made me think of. Sometimes there's a fear of letting go of that pain also, because
absolutely.
it's serving a purpose. And for myself, like I went through a concussion years ago, and I'm very involved now in the concussion world. And there's a lot of times, along with other different health things as well. And it's when you live with something for a while, it might suck, absolutely, but it also serves a purpose. And sometimes letting that
Exactly.
go, when that becomes your identity for a while, it's like, okay, well, now what am I going to be able to do again? Am I actually going to be able to recover? Am I not? Like, there's a lot of fear that comes around with a lot of different things. Even things, I'm also big in the pregnancy world of like, okay, once I'm no longer pregnant, what is that
Yeah.
going to look like? You grieve the
Postpartum
loss of
depression, right?
pregnancy.
Something
There's the
like that.
depression.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like fear. I can just see like there's fear and stress, everyday stress every day that can just build and build, and we're not releasing it all maybe appropriately or enough, even that it
Exactly. And
just
sometimes
stays
we don't
stagnant
even
within
know
us.
how to do that.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
we think by talking about it, we're releasing it. But, from
Yeah.
my work, I can say conscious and subconscious are two different things.
Yes.
I've been to speech therapy, and it was, it served its purpose, but then it also didn't,
Yeah.
because I was just working on a conscious level.
Yeah, and as someone who, I was the counselor in the talk therapy and for a lot of kids, and it worked good to help teach them little things for, they have to learn how to be able to speak their mind, stand up for themselves. We worked a lot on different things like that, but they have a lot of things that stay within them that is hard to let go, that I just couldn't do in my environment in the schools. Yeah, sometimes you just don't realize that the stress is actually still there. So, it's-
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned the letting go part, because when I was doing the session with you, I chose the reset, but I was always also thinking maybe I'll do the art of letting go.
Okay.
That's another session I have, and it's one of those sessions that I love doing because it exactly triggers that point of what are you not letting go?
Yeah.
What do you think you have let go of, but it's still in your head, that little voice that is just coming up every now and then and tells you, oh, this is why you're not moving forward, you know?
Mhm.
So that is something very,
Awesome.
very prone in my work, the letting go part.
Awesome. And so, yeah, I can definitely see this working with people who have big T trauma, little T trauma, stress,
Absolutely.
like anything where, all kinds of absolutely anything and everything.
Exactly. And sometimes people know that they have encountered trauma. And like you
Mhm.
said, big T and little T, it can be an accident, but it can also be something that happened in your day-to-day life that was just happening too fast and too soon to you, and you were not
Mhm.
ready for it. So you're overwhelmed. Your body's overwhelmed how to react to it.
Yeah.
It's always about how your body reacts to it. And when you're consciously aware, oh, that accident was not great for me. Yeah, that sucks. But how did your body respond?
Mhm.
That, I mean, there's exactly that point where we don't feel any pain after an accident. I don't know if you've ever been in an accident, car accident. I've been twice.
That's how I
And
got my
right
concussion.
right after the accident, right? You don't feel anything. It's because your body's in a shock.
Mhm.
It doesn't, nothing's coming up, but then it just takes a few moments or a day or maybe a few days
Yeah.
where the pain just comes down to you and is overwhelming you. This is the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the body reacting, not your
Absolutely.
mind reacting.
Absolutely. So I think this is a great spot to kind of go into maybe talk about the session that I did, just to give people a bit of an understanding.
Hmm.
I'll share a little bit about my experience. So just a couple of days ago, Teresa and I met. It was, as I said at the very beginning, it was a phenomenal session. So she did go over kind of the ins and outs, what I should expect in it, which was really great because I think I experienced everything that you talked about.
I have this
Um,
experience that I have experienced myself, but also with my clients when they have had a session before. There is no intro. I have walked into breathwork sessions and they say, "Oh, great. Thank you for being here. Let's go." They turn on the music and it's go time. And I'm just like, "Oh my God, like how can you do this?" Like now that I facilitate myself, it is just, how can you do that? So many
yeah.
things can come up. How are you going to deal with that? Like when some, I mean, just
And if you're
imagine the physical
processing,
reactions.
yeah.
Like
Absolutely. And then you're
that could
processing
have,
the emotional, but even like, so you talk about, T-Rex arms can happen. And I totally had that a couple of times. The first one worse than the second time, where like my hands were literally stuck in this T-Rex style position. Um, and full body numbing, all of that type of stuff. So it's important to like, had I not known, now myself, I know a little bit already background of some of this that's not abnormal, but someone who has never come into this, it is literally their very first experience. They've never done the research into breath work, anything like that. Like that would be very scary, I feel, for someone,
scary, definitely
which
scary.
we
I
don't
mean,
want to add.
no, it is, or it can be an intense process in itself, right? So if you
Yeah.
can't explain what your body is doing right now and you want to speak up and you can't, that is
Yeah,
scary.
it
That is
is.
scary.
It is
And I never
absolutely.
wanted to have that for my clients, that experience.
Mhm.
So that's why it was always important for me to do an introduction that is in detail.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, whoa, that was a lot of information. I'm scared of what you just told me. But I'd rather have you
Yeah,
scared right now
it's
than in the session.
absolutely. And it's just knowledge is power, right? You need to be aware of
Exactly.
what's happening around you, what's happening in you. And that gives you the person experiencing it the power as well. But yeah, so my experience, we started you went over all of that details and then you started with the just a really nice guided, almost like a guided meditation aspect at the beginning, which was really nice. And then once we started the transformational breath work, I will say I recommend everybody to put chapstick on first. I did put chapstick on first. I think that was a big help for me. I remember hearing someone else had an experience with it and they had said to put chapstick. That's why for me, I was like, oh yes, chapstick. And my tongue did get dry because you are breathing through your mouth, which most people are not used to doing, or hopefully you're not used to doing, because you really should not be breathing through your mouth. It's really bad to breathe through your mouth all the time.
Exactly.
So if you are a mouth breather, I highly suggest doing a bit of research into that. I read the book Breath actually a while ago, and to me, like that just transformed my entire view on breathing.
Yeah,
Um,
that was one of the books I went through when I
yeah,
started. Yeah,
it
it's
was
just
an
like,
amazing
yeah,
book. It is.
like, whoa, so eye-opening.
Oh my goodness, yes. It was one of those like transformational books for me as well. So yes, my tongue went super dry and kind of like when you're at the dentist where you just want to wet your tongue and you can't because they're working in your mouth. But I'm just telling people if you're doing this, it's okay. Just push through it. Like lean into the discomfort. It goes away. I promise you, it goes away. It only lasted a few minutes. And then I didn't even notice it anymore whatsoever. So the body totally adapted and it was not a big deal. But I know like at the beginning, that's kind of where my focus was. And I'm like, oh, my tongue, my tongue. And I'm like, okay, just push through, just push through. And then it was fine.
You know, in the
Um,
beginning, you notice every single sensation that comes up. You know,
yeah.
there's the itching. Oh, you want to scratch it. Oh, there is the numbness in the leg. Oh, you want to feel it. And
Yeah.
same with the dryness in your mouth and everything. Like you notice everything on such a different level when you're in this experience.
You do. And I kept going, so just so people are aware, so the breath is a three-part. Do you want to demonstrate the breath?
So
Just so
it's a
that people are
two-part
aware.
actually. So
Okay, yeah.
it's that's what we call it. It's a two-part. It's a conscious connected breathing, but there are different types of conscious connected breathing as well. And it's
Mhm.
two inhales and one exhale, and it's an active breath. So you go into your belly and then in through your chest and then out through your mouth. So it is something like this.
Yeah. Nice. See, and to me, I see three parts because part one is belly, part two is chest, and then exhale is three. So that's why to me, I'm like, it's a
True,
three
true,
part,
makes
but
sense. But
two,
the exhale is passive, and
yeah,
you're not supposed to give it force. You know, that's why
yeah,
the focus is on the inhale.
yeah. But yeah, so I would go kind of like that two-step process of type thing. But then I would also go the wave of just and just let it naturally go stomach, chest out on its own. And honestly, I'm one that I'm very in tune with my body. So I kind of just let my body go as long as I was consciously still doing the two-step that way for the breath in. I remember you saying some people kind of do it more one way or the other, but I noticed myself, I
Yeah.
kept going back and forth between the two. And it didn't make a difference in my experience. I just found sometimes, I don't know, I would naturally go to the wave almost versus I call it the step. I don't know. In my head, that's what makes sense. The step
Yeah,
versus
yeah,
the wave.
it mostly helps others to think in the steps because since you're not breathing like you usually breathe, you kind of have to think about your breath in the beginning before your
Yeah.
subconscious takes over, right? So for me, it's always important to, you know, if this feels better for you, do it. It's totally fine. And if you feel like you want to do the wave, that's fine too. It's supposed to feel good to you.
Yeah. And it was more of when I was not thinking about it that I went to the wave versus
Yeah.
when it was like a slower time, I would go back to the step process of it. And especially at the beginning, it was step process of it until my body got into that natural flow almost.
It was
Um,
maybe also the first time you paid attention to
yeah.
your diaphragm. You know, it is a muscle. We
Yeah. Oh
forget
yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is a muscle. Like
Yeah.
it's you just have to train it just like your biceps, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And for me, like I've done a lot of different breath work in the past, doing hypnobirthing and things like that. There's a lot of different breath work for pregnancy and birth that I did for my births and help other people learn as well. So that part, absolutely, like the diaphragm is a muscle that you need to to work and to learn and use in a certain way. Um, but yeah, then once I got into it, I started with my hands and feet getting the tingly sensation, and then got full body tingles, like head to toe. There wasn't a part of me that did not have that tingling sensation, which was neat. And I had to move. I know you said sometimes some people move a little bit. I moved a lot. I feel I want
Yeah.
to go back and watch my session, but I feel like I was a worm just squiggling around
Yeah.
at one point. I think I went into bridge pose. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It
and
did.
I could feel the energy moving through me. And I feel like I'd say, but the last few weeks, like my shoulder, my whole upper back and shoulders, and that's not usually, sometimes I carry stress in my shoulders. But this wasn't stress. I was just like, something is just stuck there, I feel. And I don't know if it's I'm stuck in something in my past because it's on my back, different things like that. But there's just some, and through the session, I could just feel it moving. And I just had to like squish my back and then just let it out. And I could feel it shifting around, which was really, really awesome.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
beauty of the movement. Some clients are afraid to move because they feel like they're being watched, or
mhm,
you're not supposed to do that. And I mean, there is a reason why you feel that you
yeah,
should move that way. So
yeah,
like you said in the beginning, just give in, lean into it. And this is why
yeah.
there is the change in the pain or the whatever you feel there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, I'm like, it wasn't a primal. I didn't go down into like that primal state of needing whatever, but it was still that unconscious of just letting the body knows what it like what it needs to do naturally. So I just let my
Exactly.
body do what it needed to do. So originally before beginning to, I had moved down into my treatment room, and I originally asked, like, should I do this on my massage table? Because I had my nice heater pad on and all that type of stuff. I was like, oh, that would be comfortable. And then you had said, like, probably not the safest. And I am very happy that I did listen because, yeah, the way I was moving there, I would have fallen right off my massage table. So if you
Yeah,
are going
yeah.
to do it, floor and bed are absolutely the better option.
Yeah, if you
And
do it by yourself in an online session, yes. If
yeah,
I would be around, this is different because I can hold space in a different way.
yes.
So yes, this is when a massage table would be okay. But in like either way, I always recommend doing it on the floor because it's
Mhm.
also the part of grounding, so
Yes,
being grounded. So that is something I usually recommend doing.
absolutely. Yeah. And then yeah, at one point I did experience, like I mentioned, the T-Rex hands. I just remember it building and building, and then all of a sudden it was like my arms were stuck there, which was really interesting. And then we released that, and there was, you did mention that there was a at one point I would let out a scream, a cry, warrior sound, whatever it was. Um, and my husband came home actually in the middle of my session, so he was not aware that I was going to be doing it, and I could hear him pacing upstairs, and it was funny, but he assumed everything was okay at least. Um, and yeah, and then after the session, I'm someone who's always cold, always, always, always cold. And so I feel like I had a little bit of that adrenaline, like there was just so much adrenaline that I had a little bit of those chills that comes afterwards with that. So I did have a blanket on that I just kind of laid there and had that very lovely euphoric feeling. That I always like to say that those post-session highs of after
Mm-hmm.
yoga, after massage, after people who do floats often have like post-float highs, different things like
Yeah.
that. It was very, I couldn't string a sentence together. It was so euphoric how I was feeling. And then so I just kind of bundled up into a blanket for a few minutes, and then that kind of dissipated. And then as the day progressed, I got hot. And as someone who is always cold, it was actually quite lovely to not be cold for once. And we actually have we're in a heat wave right now, at the time of this recording in Ontario, where we're in the pluses in February, which is unheard of.
Same
But like,
here, same here.
I don't know what's going on this winter, but it's weird. But I was hot to the point that as soon as I could take a shower, I needed to shower because I was so sweaty and I wasn't doing anything. It was just my body naturally working out everything that we did through the session. So I thought that was a really interesting aftermath of it all. It continues to work through the day. It's not like once we were done the session, okay,
Oh,
bam, the body and
absolutely
mind are
not.
done.
Absolutely not. Most of the time, a lot of things come up in the following days,
Mhm.
because you're processing what you've been through. If that was physical or emotional, mental, it doesn't really matter. But that comes up in the next few days, and it is not unusual that this is an ongoing process.
Yeah. No, yeah. And yeah, so I found it a very amazing transformational experience for myself doing it. And I recommend everyone to try it out at least once. See just to get a taste for it. But how often would you recommend someone actually does it? And I know if you're targeting something specific might be different versus kind of more of a maintenance or just release every now and then, things like that. But what would be kind of the recommended amount of times that someone does this?
I get this question all the time. It depends. I know
Mhm.
this is a really shitty answer, but it
No,
really depends.
yeah.
It is. So when I started doing this, I went on this exploration, right? I did this every week, which is very intense because you get
Mhm.
into this high and you get out of it, processing it, and then
Mhm.
basically you go back into it. Now I wouldn't recommend this. Now that I
Okay.
facilitate the same things, I usually recommend um, 1 to 2 times per month,
Okay.
which is fine because your body is going to tell you when you need it. And it
Mhm.
also, like you said, it depends on what you're targeting. Are
Mhm.
you doing this because you just want that profound relaxation? Do you want to do this because you're actually targeting a trauma? What do you want to get out of it?
Mhm.
So it really depends what you want out
Yeah.
of it. But usually, still now, I have this feeling when I need to do this. Just because I'm
Mhm.
facilitating it doesn't mean that I do this every day, right? This is
Yeah.
not breath work, box breathing that you do every day.
Yeah.
It is something you have to be called for in your body. Once you have done this experience, have had this experience, your body's gonna yearn for this maybe once again, and then you feel that again. Um,
I think that makes
I
sense.
use it as a tool for decision making. I can trigger myself if
Hmm.
I have something I need to decide on, let's just make an example here. I have an idea that I want to create in terms of my work. And I am between two ideas. I use transformational breath work to find my solution, to find my
Mm.
answer.
Oh,
It
that's
is
neat.
it just that is yeah, most nobody expects this because for me that just came naturally. I did my
Mhm.
sessions, and I found that I had an answer to whatever was going on in my mind at that time. So for me, it was like, whoa, okay, I guess this is my new decision tool. I'm not going to talk it out with my husband anymore. I'm just going to use my
Yeah.
breath.
There you go. There you
So,
go.
I
Tapping
just,
inwards.
exactly,
Yep.
some people journal about it and have their answer in the clarity around this. I get my clarity in my sessions. And,
Mhm.
I use the sound system where I combine it with binaural beats and different frequencies and so on. So it is targeted into a different state. I get targeted in a different state. And yeah, that's how I use it by now.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, some people should not be doing these sessions though. Can you share when there might be contraindications, who should not necessarily be doing this type of breath work?
Absolutely. So one contraindication is pregnancy.
Mhm.
And that's because the conscious connected breathing technique can induce labor. So,
Not something we
you know,
want.
that's exactly. I mean, there are breathwork techniques to target the birth. So yes, it totally makes
Mhm.
sense when you think about it that this is
Mhm.
something you should be aware of. So yeah, if you're pregnant, I'm not gonna facilitate you through a transformational breathwork. But then it also comes down to heart condition. If
Okay.
you have high blood pressure, for example, we kind of have to look if this is something that has been going on. A recent, so high blood pressure is something I usually would
Okay.
not facilitate with.
Yeah.
However, if this is something that has been treated in the past and your blood pressure is now okay, that
Mhm.
is fine,
Okay.
because you can do baby steps towards a transformational breath work. I would
Okay.
do a different kind of down regulation, for example, before I do a transformational breath work session that is upregulating, so
Okay.
that the body gets used to breathing differently, and we can see how your body responds.
Yeah.
And then there's also respiratory diseases. That is something I'm conscious about. Asthma, if it's very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And then also um, mental diseases like schizophrenia and psychosis is something I am not
Yeah.
touching on. However, it's very important to note that depression and anxiety is not considered a contraindication. In fact, it's very perfect to target.
Yeah. It's more
Yeah,
so to not go into that psychosis state. So
exactly.
someone who
Because you
is
can
prone
also
to
induce
going
that.
into, yeah. So if you're prone to a psychosis state, it would be more so when to avoid it.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And then also, if you're on a heavy medication, it can contraindict with the breath. And then there's epilepsy and
Okay.
seizures, because
Okay.
you're going inward, and it could
Okay.
force it. So that's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else.
Absolutely. And we want to make sure everyone's safe. And hopefully, if someone reaches out to you or if someone finds someone local to them, their practitioner would share all this too. But a lot of times, like you said, some people like you don't get the intro, you don't get it. So happy that you have shared, because that's actually quite a few people who should not be doing this. There's quite a
Yep,
few populations, and it is something like it is a lot that you're putting the body through. So it is important to stay safe for doing it. It's not, like you said,
absolutely.
it's not just box breathing where it's a calm breath. Like it was, I want to say, a workout session.
Yeah.
So I could see definitely the need to have those safety precautions in place.
Yeah, and
Um,
sometimes you just, have to talk about it, because
yeah.
I do have clients that are like, I so want to do this. Like, I'm okay. I don't care about my, I don't know, recent surgery. I'm like, you know,
Better
let's just
safe
give
than
it a bit more
sorry.
time. You just talk
Yeah.
about this with your doctor first.
Yeah.
There is a reason why you are on a health plan right now. So it's totally fine to talk about this, or how we can do baby steps towards this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna say yes to a pregnant woman ever.
Yeah. No. Now, if someone wanted to do it and maybe had some of those, could they just do the calm breathing through their nose? So clearly they wouldn't get the same experience. But to me, even the words you were saying, the guided words throughout the session were just as impactful as, the breath triggering all the other things. Would that, obviously, with talking to you, whoever's facilitating, would that be a way that someone could kind of participate in something and just doing soft nose breathing? It's
Absolutely.
something
Absolutely.
that came
So
to you.
I've
Okay.
had in group sessions, I've had people that were not comfortable through the mouth, and they asked me before if this would be the same thing if they would
Mhm.
breathe through the nose. Yes, this happens the same way. It might not just be as intense.
Okay.
So you're still, you're still breathing the technique, you're still breathing the two parts. But I mean, with this, you also target your cells, right? And what comes on top of this is the sound system. You have the visualization, you have the beats, the frequencies, the isochronic brain waves that already target you. So just listening to them itself triggers you.
Yeah.
So I'm the facilitator and I have it on my ear too. I get the arousal and everything that comes with it as well. I'm just not breathing with it. I'm protecting my energy when I guide through this. But I totally feel how my brain gets activated with the brain waves and the frequencies already.
Nice.
So yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Just by listening or just by doing this through the nose, you definitely have an effect. Yes.
Awesome. And now, because we love all things aromatherapy, and I know, and you did mention that you do use aromatherapy sometimes throughout your practice. Are there a few essential oils that you kind of gravitate towards? I know you had said the white sage earlier, but would you have like maybe 2, 3, 4? I don't know how many you typically use. But if you do use some, which ones it is that you typically gravitate towards?
Yes. So I have a few moments in the session where I use them.
Okay.
One is in the very beginning when they slip into that mode, right? When they get into the nose breathing in the beginning, it is to start to ground down, to calm down, just notice your breath for the first time in the day or ever. So this is where I usually I might use peppermint.
Okay.
And but that is something that I'm not doing all the time. I have to be honest. That's something, the first part is something that I just sometimes just do without any essential oils. However, one thing I always use is the white sage. And this is when the conscious connecting breathing technique is happening. And it's most of the time after the first scream, because sometimes I do more than one. With you, it was just one. This is when there is a first release happening, and I deepen that experience with the white sage because it is the cleansing and the negative and the neutralizing of the negativity. So that is when it's a very penetrating smell that just deepens that the emotions to come up a little more. So that is something I do. And then I love, 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 love using lemon or bitter orange or lavender at the very last part when we switch from the
back to
from
the
the conscious
calming.
connecting breathing to the nose breathing. Yeah, because this is when you release and when you come back and when you integrate and you're open for the new. So this is when most of the time I use lemon because I felt that that is something that is also remembered by a lot of people with a good memory because the it's just I don't know, for example,
nice,
a vacation. It's a
uplifting.
nice, exactly, it's uplifting, just opening for something new. So there's a lot of memory connected to that scent. And lavender because it's so soothing. So that is my go-tos for the end. Yeah. But say white sage always, and then lemon. I would say every other session for sure, if not every session. But for lemon, it's either lemon or lavender most of the time. And I've had this when I did a breathwork session in person long time ago. That person was using lavender, and so I remember this from my session. So I have this connotation with it too. So that's nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, those
But
are
I would
great.
love to hear your intake on this, how you would, go forward with this.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you of something grounding at the beginning and end. And I could just see it as you as a facilitator using like just even adding a little, I don't know. And so when you're using it though, are you diffusing it for those few minutes, or do you have it on a cotton pad and just kind of waft it in front of them? How
I
do you typically
usually
use
I
it?
usually put it on my own hands and wave over them.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because
as
most of
soon
the time in person they have an eye mask on,
okay.
and so they're not irritated when something is happening. So I just
Yeah.
like using my hand at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see just so that depending on how many sessions you do through a day too, just to protect you as a practitioner. Also, almost even just putting it on the cotton and then just wafting that over.
Mm-hmm.
But I also do Reiki, so I love the hand
Yep.
aspect of wafting the hands over as well. But yeah, I could see something grounding at the beginning and at the end and releasing to help kind of that release.
Exactly.
Lavender helps release that stagnant energy. So when you said lavender, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And to me, I'm a lover of vetiver. To me, it's my go-to oil for everything, and it's the most
Okay.
grounding oil for me. Vetiver and cedarwood's my close second. When I need some like serious
Yeah.
grounding work, those are my two go-to oils. So to me, I'm like, I would for myself, having a vetiver at the very beginning would just get me into that deep grounded state within seconds because of
Okay.
that
Yeah.
muscle or not muscle, the olfactory system of memory scent also playing a role in that as well. But no, I can think of so many different ones that
I will definitely try that out on
I mean,
myself first, and then I will see
vetiver
how it
is
goes.
one that not a lot of people like. I know a lot of people don't like the smell of vetiver, or some it puts them actually like to sleep too deep of it's almost too deepening. Rachel is like that, the other co-founder, and vetiver just kind of knocks her right out. Whereas for me, it just kind of brings me to that nice grounded, deep grounding level. And yeah, and
That
cedar
was what I
is
was afraid with lavender, because lavender is so a lot of people make the connection to sleep.
yeah,
You put it on your pillow, or that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't want to put my clients into sleep.
And I mean, and the fact that you're just wafting too, like they're not smelling it, they're not taking in the aromas for 30 minutes straight either. And
Yeah.
and to me, lavender is just that nice calming, it allows the body to just kind of release and come back down, which is always really nice.
Do you think
So
there is like because I am using 2 or 3 in a session.
mm.
Is there, a take of it's too much or not?
You're not using it throughout the entire session. So to me, no,
Okay.
because you are wafting it at the beginning for a few seconds and then in the middle for a few seconds, even a couple minutes type thing. And then at the end for, up to a couple of minutes. It's to me, that's not, I would just be more cautious because you're applying them neat directly to your hands so often. That would be more my cautious of protecting yourself as a practitioner, just so that you
Mm-hmm.
don't become sensitized to them. So either adding kind of a drop of lotion, unscented lotion beforehand to help dilute them, or
Hmm.
having, a cotton pad and just even holding the cotton pad between fingers. And this way you can still waft
Ooh,
on
I like
top.
that.
That
Yeah.
just came to me of like holding it between the fingers, and you can, because I'm a big believer also with the hands. Like I understand fully why you're using the hands and how you're using them that way. Is important too in it. So I'm trying to think of a safer way because you're
I have
using
used
multiple
a tissue
ones.
before, but I
Mhm.
felt like it kind of got lost in it, because you're essentially waving a tissue.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, even if you had the tissue and you just wrapped it around your finger, and just kind of like attached it and did it that way,
Mm-hmm.
maybe,
Maybe
or
I'll
even like
try
a
that. Yeah.
felt, if you had a felt ring type thing, and you just slip each felt tie on your often on your fingers at each step of it. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I will definitely
But I mean, as long as you're
try
not
a
doing
few
like
things
10 a
here.
day also, then
Oh
like
no,
we
no.
have extra padding on our hands to protect our hands more. So that doesn't get absorbed as quickly through our hands as it would on other body parts. Lots of different ways to kind of help keep everybody safe in it. But no,
Definitely.
it would not be too much oils throughout the session for the person experiencing breath work, in my opinion. Well, I think that is kind of a great spot to kind of start wrapping this up. Before we do you have any other recommendations or words of wisdom for those listening?
I would definitely encourage you to try it because often there is this misconception of breath work. I've heard so many times like, oh, you're not this person with the feathers in the hair. I'm like, no, I'm
Really?
not.
Oh.
Yeah, it's because when I think of breath work and that comes with social media, they think of people that are, those gurus that
Oh, okay, yeah.
that have this, this lifestyle, this because essentially it is a modality that comes from ancient wisdom. We're
Yeah.
using your breath, and if you've read the book, it has
Yeah.
it has been here way before we discovered it.
Absolutely.
It's
Discovered the
nothing new we
power
are
of it.
discovering. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's nothing new here. This is something that um the population way before us used.
Yeah.
So this is something that that I have to conquer all the time. No, I am a woman of the Western world and I use science with this, and I am not gonna jump around in my yoga pants here. It's just so let go of that misconception and be
Awesome.
open to the self-exploration that
Yeah.
you will experience in a session.
Awesome. Yeah. And like I said, my session was absolutely amazing. I highly recommend, just try it once and see how it goes as well. If
Exactly.
people did want to get in touch with you, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you? Where can they book a
Yeah.
session with you?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is on my website, which is shebreath.com, and through Instagram. Same name, it's shebreath _ official. This is where I am. I have to
Awesome.
say, I recently started my Instagram because it takes a lot of energy out of me. So,
It's a lot of
since I'm
work.
already protecting my energy with my work, I want to be fully present in my work. And
Yeah.
I was, working against social media a long time. And I was just like, what, just give it a try again and be creative. It's my creative outlet
There you
now.
go.
So just,
Nice.
um, different from the work I do, and just spread the word to, that I'm not the guru.
No, I
I'm
love
not
that.
the
And
guru with the feathers in the hair. One of my clients said that to me, like, I'm so glad you're not the person with the feathers in the hair. So this is like this go-to joke with us.
awesome. And I know we'll have that information also in the show notes, so they can easily click over and find you. And I think you said that you also had something for our listeners.
Exactly. I have a little goodie for you all. I would love to gift you 25% off any session, and that can be the single session or the bundles of 3 and 6, whatever
Awesome.
you like. And it's a code Essentria.
Awesome. So we'll also have that in the show notes. So yeah, going to shebreath.com, booking a session and saving, you said 25% off. Um,
Exactly.
that's an amazing saving. Thank you so much. We
You're
appreciate that.
welcome.
We always love having little savings for our listeners. So thank you. And thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing the, I'll say, magic of breath work. Like you said, it isn't something new, but using it in this way might be. And it's an amazing way of tuning in, tapping into the breath and going inwards. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise about it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending your time with us here at Vetiver Vibes. This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. Don't forget to check out some of our free resources at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think would enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, you can go on over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review, and we will send you a free guided meditation as our way to say thank you.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply directly to you.